And welcome to another exciting adventure on the energy that surrounds us. I'm your host, Michael, and thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. I know it is not our normal night, but when life hands you an episode, you take it. With that being said, you guys are in for a real treat. I've been having a lot of fun talking with our guests before we were getting started, and having a lot of fun chats offline too. So I could share her bio for you all, but I think it'd be so much more interesting if it came directly from her. So I am going to turn it over to our amazing guest tonight. Without further ado, the one, the only, medium extraordinaire, medium red.
Thanks, Michael. I love that. Thank you. Boy, you know how to boost a girl's ego. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been wonderful. Thank you. I am medium red, yes. And a little bit about me. Let's see. I have basically known I was different from other children and people since I was about 5 years old. I could see dead people and talk to them. And my first experience with it was when I was about 5 years old. And I was in my bedroom. I had a little square table, and my mom came in. She heard me talking because I was serving tea and talking to the people at my table. And so she wanted to know, who was in this vacant seat. I had myself, I had a doll, I had a teddy bear, and then there was one vacant seat open, and she wanted to know who I was talking to. And I said, well, it's my grandfather, Pap Pap. And she turned white as a ghost and said, that's you can't do that. He's dead. And I said, I know, he's right there. And she, being highly Catholic, looked at me and said, well, you need to shut that down. That's demonic, and we don't do that. When people die, they go to heaven. They don't come back down. And I'm like, okay. So had a conversation with my grandfather because I wanted to still play with him. I used to play cops and robbers. We'd play detective. We'd play cowboys and Indians. I played dolls with him. So, I wasn't really willing to give up my playmate. So he just said, tell her it's an imaginary friend. And I said, okay. And he said, make up a name. So the next time I was doing a tea party, she came in and kind of looked at me and said, who are you talking to? And I went, Hockey, my invisible friend. She was fine with it. From that on out, she never bothered me again about it. But it's kind of funny because it's like, here you have I don't know, in my opinion, psychologically, you're playing with an invisible friend, but yet here you're playing with a real life person that was alive. I don't know. I think I'd rather have my child play with somebody that wasn't, that was used to be alive. But, oh well. But my grandmother would come to town, and so she would be, she kind of would egg me on or kind of, encourage me. And so would my dad, because this was my dad's dad. And she would be like, is he here? And I'd be like, he is. And she's like, well, you tell him I miss him and I love him? I'm like, you can tell him, he's sitting right there. So I kind of got, older and kind of put the gift aside. I could still see, but I wouldn't communicate with them. I ended up, going to college, getting married, getting divorced, getting remarried. And then my current husband is in the concert business. And he came to me one day and said, we're thinking about buying, and I'm sure you probably know who Amy Bruni is from Kindred Spirits. She was doing a book tour, and so my husband asked me if I would be interested in helping him promote the show. And since I always had my little pinky, kind of in the paranormal world, I knew Debbie Branning in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and still do. And so he said, do you think we could do well with this show? And I said, yeah, it's a niche market. You really got to focus into that paranormal world. I think social media will be the best way of doing it. So they did it. we promoted it. We had her come in, and she was setting up to do her PowerPoint presentation, and I guess she was having issues with her computer. And my husband said, I'll go to Best Buy, I'll get the cable that you need, etc. So I sat down with her and had a nice one-on-one conversation with her. And so she asked me what my deal was, and I told her, and she's like, why aren't you using your gift? She's like, legitimate mediums out there are very hard to find. You should go and do something with this gift. So I kind of credit her with kind of giving me an old boot in the butt to get my butt out there and start doing something with this. So I thought, well, fine, I haven't used it in such a long time. I probably should take some refresher courses or talk to somebody or whatever. So I found a medium here that's really well-versed and very well-known and has a great reputation, and took a few of her classes just to double check and make sure that I was okay. And she's like, yeah, you're good. Go, girl, go. So I did. And then I just continued to further my education through other mediums. So I just completed a 6-month mentorship, which I have to tell you was kicked my butt, with Cindy Keza from Dead Files and Holzer Files. Beautiful woman, inside, outside. Just, I love her to death. And also Patty Negri, the Hollywood medium. So I've taken classes from her as well. So it just everything just kind of fell into place. And all of a sudden I am now consulting for 2 different local teams, Mackinville Paranormal and K-Hall Crew Paranormal. And we have a K-Hall Crew. We have a TV show on Roku called Spirit Chasers. Mackinville, we're working on production for a show called Paranormal Unvisited. So we're strictly looking for buildings that have never been investigated before, and going in, they're virgin basically, and going in and doing filming for those particular locations. And it's incredible. It's a wonderful opportunity that I love, that I'm getting to experience. So on top of that, I've been a co-host within the Cauldron with Chrissy and Chris Dunham, and just told you backstage, I think we're approaching 190 episodes right now. So almost 200 episodes. The 2-year anniversary of our podcast is September 2nd. So we're going to try to do something spectacular for the 2-year anniversary. So that's just a little bit about me.
Wow. So I'm kind of curious, and with the fact that your grandfather came to you at 5, what, besides your mom, what impact did you notice in life growing up having that? Did you discuss it with other kids, or were you like, since mom X'd it, I am not talking to anybody about it?
The only people that I would talk to would be my dad and my grandmother. Those are the only 2 people that I would talk to, because they would be encouraging me behind the scenes to continue to do this, continue to have that relationship with my grandfather. So I never really brought it up to my mother. In fact, my mother died in 2020. She still never knew. So
I have a feeling she knew. She just realized there was no turning it off. So just
go with it.
Just don't acknowledge it, but acknowledge it.
Correct. Yeah. I didn't say it, but I said.
It's like, she has it, she can't turn it off, so I just won't engage it.
That's right. Yeah, so it's been a wild ride, I have to say. Once I, kind of turned the gift back on again, basically in a nutshell, it was like the floodgates opened up. So there was a lot of having to learn how to control, how to create boundaries, set boundaries, I should say. It was very interesting, to say the least. So that was kind of the learning curve that I had, because being a kid, you don't think about putting boundaries in place. You don't think about, and you really don't think that this is abnormal, because no one's told you. In this case, my mom said something to me. Otherwise, I would have probably blabbed to all my friends like, hey, I can see your grandfather. Hey, I can see your sister, But, in the 70s, I'm an old person. In the 70s, I think that would have been frowned upon, and especially going to a Catholic school.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'd have a lot of ruler marks.
Yeah, I had that with gum already, so that was probably enough. Knuckles are a little bigger.
I've heard the stories. I had never actually went, but I heard the stories. And
Oh, one time I was chewing gum and I forgot to take it out before I got out of the car when my mom dropped me off. And I tried to hide it a couple times. And of course, it was a nun and she caught me. And of course, she stuck me in the big old trash can with gum on my nose. And I had to sit there for like 30 minutes with gum on my nose in front of the whole class. So, oh, yeah. I don't
you
think
know,
they get away with half the stuff that they do now, or what they did then. They would never be able to get away with that now.
yeah, but I gotta say, sitting in a trash can with gum on my nose doesn't sound as bad as half of the things that I've heard go on.
I'd have to say I'm probably a little bit luckier. I've had the ruler on my knuckles a few times, but for the most part, that's about the most severe that I've had. So we're good. Didn't scar me too badly for life.
Yeah. So how did it feel though? I'm really curious sitting down and having your grandfather there knowing he's on the other side. Did you just were you just like, "Hey, thanks for coming and glad you could make time," or were you like at first going, "How are you here? You shouldn't be here. What how," and being like all, what was it like?
Well, interestingly enough, the I didn't know my grandfather. That's what was really the kicker. That's what really blew my mom away because, in fact, I don't even recall ever a family picture in the house. He died when I was 9 months old. But I do have a recollection, and it could be that he basically told me this, but I have a recollection of him. I think I was 3 months old, and he came to the house, and they lived back east in Pennsylvania. So they came out for the birth. And apparently, I have this recollection of him holding me and rocking me in a rocking chair in my childhood house. And I told my mom this, and she's like, there's no way you could remember that and the furniture had been rearranged and obviously had bought new furniture. So this one chair was in front of the grandfather clock. And I remember it clear as day. And she's like, there's just no way you could remember that. I'm like, but I do. And it could be also something my grandfather told me that I'm remembering as well. But I described him to a T to my mom. And I just remember him appearing one day, and I felt very warm and peaceful. I never felt like it was a bad entity or anything like that. And he looks like my dad. So, there's quite a bit of similarity between the two of them. My dad was the firstborn. He looks just like my grandfather. And so I felt like, wow, this is really cool. And he introduced himself. He told me that he was Pap Pap, and I had heard the name before. So, I knew that that was my grandfather. And I just knew I had this clear sentient, aspect of just knowing that he was my grandfather. And from then on out, he would just, if I called him, he would come. I would be able to say, I want to play cops and robbers today, and then he would appear. And then we'd run outside and play cops and robbers. So my brothers were 10, 11 years older than I was. I don't know if I was an oops or if mom decided that she just wanted to have a second family. I'm not really quite sure. So I really did have to entertain myself because my parents were older, my brothers were older. And so this was the perfect solution. We lived in an older neighborhood too. I mean, it was like we had people that were 40s and 50s that were living there, and the children were all grown up type of thing. So, my mom would arrange play dates and things like that. And sometimes I would try to say something to them, but then they'd look at me like I was crazy. So I'd be like, okay, keep that to yourself. So I just kind of kept it to myself. But yeah.
No, that's amazing. And kids actually learn and remember stuff in infant state more than people realize. And even some doctors have even come forward and said, yeah, if you pick up and hold this baby, they'll remember that you did that, and it forms a bond. And when I lost my grandfather, my best friend had a daughter, the same, like within days, I think it was, of each other. And so
Oh,
he
wow.
was like, hey, do you want to come up and see my daughter in the hospital before she goes home. Although, I understand if not because you're, losing your grandpa. And I was like, yeah, I'll come up. And so I went up and I don't think that I held her, but it's like I seen her. And when I met her again as like getting ready to go to college, my friend looks at her and she goes, yeah, you remember him. He was there when you were born. And she goes, yeah, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's really cool that you remember that. And
It's
it was like,
wild.
it is.
And the other part of it too, I mean, as children, we can see things, I should say animals and kids can see other people from the other side. And it's because of the adults that we are that we're like, oh, you just have a vivid imagination, that can't be true. Then we teach them to be rational. And so therefore they go, oh, it's just my mind playing tricks, instead of like encouraging it. But back then
Right.
they didn't encourage it. That's the thing. I'm now seeing people with children that are exhibiting the same symptoms or signs, basically. And I always tell them, encourage them. There's nothing wrong with that. They'll know. And I love
Yeah.
that people are now doing that because it was such a taboo thing when I was growing up that it's wonderful that people are now embracing it.
And I know a lot of medium friends, and the one thing we always talk about is you can never turn it off. So the fact that you were able to turn it off, how? Because so many have like tried and never could, and just so I'm like I'm hearing like a lot of mediums out in the world going, how did you turn it off?
Mm-hmm. You know what? Life took over. And even though I still saw and heard the entities or spirits, I somehow I just didn't have time. I was involved in my life. I was involved in college, getting a degree. I was working 2 jobs. I was getting married, and starting a career. So I basically just really kind of put up a wall, basically in a nutshell. And when I let that wall down, yeah, now it's harder to basically turn it off. I can be, I'm bothered at concerts all the time. And especially if I were to, like I always say, like if I have a little glass of wine or something, it's like, oh boy, that little bubble that I create around myself to kind of create boundaries is going, it's down. All of a sudden I'm like, okay, for every 2,000 people that are in this room, there's 2 people attached to them. It's like, oh no, that was bad news. Hey, over here. Hey, over here. Hey, can you do this? So yeah, it's a little disconcerting.
Have you ever been in a situation where you were in like a building or at a concert or something, and you're sitting there and you kind of like start reacting to a spirit, and the spirit looks at you like, hey, wait, you can see me?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious
Yep.
what that looks like, because we have ideas from like Hollywood showing us, where spirits like, hey, wait, you can see me, and how they would react. But I'm curious, being someone who's actually witnessed it, what does it look like, and how is it when they first realize you can see and hear them?
Um, it's interesting. It's like like a shock factor for them, basically. But I always say as mediums, we are like lighthouses. So it's almost like, we're a beacon and they kind of are drawn to us already. So it's a sad situation actually, where I was at a concert and there was a mezzanine and we were sitting up in the mezzanine and there was a 19-year-old boy and he figured out that I could see him, even though I was trying to play dumb. Doesn't work. And so anyway, he started talking to me and he said, you need to tell my parents not to divorce. I chose to take my life. My demons were just too bad. This was my journey. I'm good, but they're blaming themselves and now they're blaming each other and now they want to divorce and they need to stay together. My decision affected them, but they're not to blame. And he says, you need to tell my parents not to divorce. Well, I'm not Teresa Caputo. So it's really difficult to go, hey, I'm going to walk up to Michael and go, hey, by the way, it doesn't work that way because you never know where they are in the grieving process, how long ago it happened. And I'm a stranger. I'm a complete stranger walking up to somebody saying, by the way, your son contacted me. It sounds weird. I still haven't perfected that way of talking to people yet either in regards to that. But yet it was a concert where it wasn't like I was at an AC/DC concert where it's all men, and maybe there's 80% men and 20%, women or something like that. And so you could figure out like, oh, there's a couple there, there's a couple there, there's a couple there. No, this was all couples. And he points to the left-hand side and there's like probably 20 rows with, six or seven seats across. So maybe, 140 people sitting in that one little section. And he points over there and he's not being really directive like there. So I made a deal with him and said, okay, I'll get up at the end of the concert. I will exit left. I will make myself stand in the middle of the walkway and be a nuisance. And you do your job and make them bump into me. Do your best to have them try to bump into me. My husband gets up. He looks at me because we usually exit right. He looks at me like, what are you doing? And I went like this. And he goes, oh, okay. He's used to it now. He's totally used to it. So I did. I stood there and I literally let all the rows exit out and not one couple bumped into me. So I told him, I said, I'm really sorry. It's just timing is everything. And in this particular instance, I don't know who your parents are. It's very difficult to pinpoint who they are. So I apologize. I literally want to go back when this particular artist comes back so that I can go back again and see if those people are there. I don't know. I mean, it's been a few years. So, but that's the sad part. You don't really know you don't know how people are going to receive that information. So I can't do that. I just can't do that. I don't want to be someone else's misery in that case. So
Right. And I often find it humorous a little bit of when spirits will go, like he said, you need to tell my parents this. It's like, and what makes you think I know your parents? It's like, wait a minute, you're skipping over a very crucial piece of information. I know
exactly.
you from Adam,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you're
No.
telling me I should go hang out with your family, and you don't even tell me who your family is. It's like,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, he was very panicked, and it was like I was trying to calm him down too, on top of it. Like, you need to calm down, I will do my best. I mean, I did, I tried, I mean, I don't, it's short of going up to every single person going, did your son commit suicide, which that's a terrible thing to have to ask a parent.
oh, that'll probably
So,
get you banned from the building.
correct. Right. Exactly. So, I mean, like, there's a time and a place, and there's kind of a method to the madness of doing something like this, but that wasn't the case. This, it was like a square peg in a round hole, basically, in a nutshell. So,
Right.
but that one case will always be in the back of my mind. And again, the same situation. He kind of looked at me like, she can see me, because I looked him straight in the eyes and I'm like, oh God, here we go. I didn't mean to do that, but yes. Okay. So
So when you see a spirit, like, you were saying you saw the boy, and you could see him as a boy, do they always come to you in human form in
typically,
specific
typically,
ways?
typically, most of the time they do, but there have been cases where I don't see anything and I hear them. So there are the different clairs that you have. There's, you see, you hear. I mean, I've even had situations where I taste, I smell, I know. So most all the clairs get used in some way, shape, or form when I'm either doing a reading for somebody, or if I'm, in a gallery reading, or if I'm doing a paranormal investigation. But 80% of the time, most of them appear just in human form. And it's wild because, oftentimes when I'm sitting with somebody, I have to describe them to the individual, because they don't always, they're vain just like we are. So obviously, if I felt like I looked my best when I was in my 40s or my 30s, I may present myself in my 30s, but maybe I died when I was 90.
Yeah.
So it's, you really gotta, be able to identify them and talk about what they look like to be able to get the sitter to recognize them, because they do. I would too. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I look good at this age. That's what I'm going to present myself as. I don't want to present myself as a wrinkly old 80-year-old woman, but that's what they do. So that's even, like they say, peeling the onion apart in a reading, or when you're talking to an entity. It's like you really got to peel that apart to kind of get down to the crux of it, to see who they are and, what they really truly did look like when they passed, which is what most people have stuck in their brain. Like my grandmother was 80 and had this short hair that was, curly, that kind of thing. So wore glasses, but yet when she was in her 40s, she had, black hair, long and straight, and no glasses. So it's a challenge sometimes.
The thing that I find challenging, and I use as an example, is I had a personal experience going to see John Edwards, the famous
Mhm.
medium, and it's like you watch him on TV, and everything seems to run smoothly. Live gallery, yeah, did not run so smoothly, and part of me was like, I blame the people in the audience, but then part of me also wants to go, dude, they didn't get it. They didn't want to take it. Let it go. Move on. There are other people here wanting messages, but you don't let it go. What's the deal? Why are you harping on someone who says no, I can't take it, and you keep going? And it's like, I get with some people, but that's where it's like, I have issues with galleries, because some people, I feel like, why are you here if you don't want these messages and you don't want to acknowledge anything, while other people are? And but then
Right.
it's like, I look at the spirits and I'm like, why are you forcing this on someone who's not ready, and let somebody else talk?
Right. It is. It's really difficult. I did a gallery reading, and I have to say, I actually have my medium red shirt on the back of my shirt. It says, "People claim you're dead." Because and I don't know if John Edwards does this, but I know Tyler Henry does it. My husband does the promotion for him when he comes to town here. Excuse me. And I know the way that he describes it, and I know Cindy Kaza has taught this with us as well. And that is, if you get an entity, a spirit, and they start talking to you, and obviously in a gallery reading, you start to describe this to somebody. Um, Usually what I try to say to people in the very beginning in my introduction is, look, there's people you want to hear from, there's people you don't want to hear from. Let's do each other a favor. If I'm picking up on somebody that you do not wish to have a message from, all you have to do is raise your hand and say, medium red, that's mine. I can take that, but I don't wish to have a reading. Then I can close the chapter on that particular spirit, and I can move on to somebody that deserves to have a reading and a message from somebody that they really want. And so, I do, Natalie Lucia is another medium that we've done classes with. And she always says, and she's from New York and she's really blunt and everything. And she says, I always say, people claim you're dead. I think that's wonderful. I think that's a great way of saying, just claim them and we'll move on. You don't have to have a message. I'm not going to force you with a message if you don't want a message. Just raise your hand and say, that's mine, but I wish not to have a message. That's perfect. I had that happen in a gallery reading where I said all that. And I think that the shock of this particular gentleman coming through for this particular woman shocked her. And I kind of knew in this particular case, I kind of knew where he was kind of positioning himself. He was kind of positioning himself by her. So I kind of knew that it was, but yet she wasn't claiming. So I eventually just said, okay, I'm going to put you off to the side. I'm going to work with you later on to figure out who it was. We moved on, didn't come back. The person that was hosting the gallery party, basically came up and said, that was definitely for her. You nailed it. But in this case, she didn't want the reading. And I said, oh, I totally understand. I just wish she would have said, that's mine. And then I wouldn't have spent 15 minutes. I could have spent 5 minutes and somebody else could have got the other 10 minutes,
Right.
So yeah, and again, it's like, and I kind of asked the person, the host, I said, was she kind of forced into coming, or what was the real reason why she was there? She was dragged. So she was told to come by, I don't know if it was her daughter or mother or whoever, but somebody dragged her there. So unfortunately that does happen, and it's hard. And the other part of it too is when you get people that are like, Cindy Kaza, John Edwards, and Tyler Henry, people want a reading so badly from these people that it's difficult for the medium, because you'll get, oh my God, that's my dad. And instantly the hand goes up in the air. And then now you have to sift through all of these people that are claiming that that's their dad. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen where you get two people that are very similar to one another, but oftentimes they're just like, I'm going to take it. I want it. It's mine. And it's up to us as mediums to go, I'm not with you. I'm with him, and that's a little difficult to do.
No, I get it, and I totally respect that. And it's just, and in watching, they would finally accept the message. And it's like, that's why I would say I blame the audience more, is because if you're going to accept it and take it, you should have just owned it right outward, instead of like 20 minutes of no, 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 and going, well, yeah, that makes sense. And yes, it is this person. And I'm like, really? Really? You just robbed all these other people from getting something now because of your action. And maybe that's what rubs me, is I have that compassionate sense of, wanting everyone
Yeah,
to
to have
have
a
an equal
reading.
shot at it,
Right.
instead of only a few people, because everybody paid, to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're monopolizing the time, being arrogant, saying no when
Right.
you know it is, and you're going
Right.
to, in 10 minutes, say yes. So save us all some time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claim you're dead. People claim you're
Yeah.
dead.
It's like,
I just love that.
think about the audience that's around you, other people, that are like sitting there. And I'm pretty confident when he finally said yes, he could feel everybody's eyes on him and being like, seriously?
Yeah,
We went
exactly.
through all of this for you to finally get it? It's like, and like you're saying, they may present themselves in ways you don't know, but it doesn't take like 20 minutes to figure out this is your
Well,
person.
yeah, and it's also really sometimes confusing, because the way that people, they're either going to jump on it right away. Like I said, like the Tyler Henry people, I found that it was, like the first couple of years that Tyler was coming to Scottsdale, I could tell that he was struggling, because people were so desperate to want to be in front of him and have him be the one that's directing the message to him, that it was, I mean, he really worked hard. The number of readings per a 90-minute show went down from, I mean, at one point he had 8 readings per 90 minutes, and then it went down to about 5 or 6. So it is difficult. In the last couple of years now, he's somehow, I don't know, combated that. And now he's able to go back up to, 10, 11, 12 readings per night. And he's somehow combated that, somehow in technique. And I'm not really sure. But at least now it feels like most of the people are allowing the other people to at least have readings, which is nice.
Well, and I kind of feel like, and this is going to sound strange, to me saying this, but because of all these people on TV doing the mediumship, like John Edwards, Teresa Caputo, the Hollywood medium, all
Mm-hmm.
of Sylvia Brown, everybody being out and putting it out there and people gravitating towards it. It's now people I think are more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
talking to their dead ones
Mm-hmm.
or parted ones, whichever language you want to use, versus back in the 80s when it started and
Mm-hmm.
going, I don't, it's like part of me is, goes back to the why are you here if you don't want to talk to your loved
Right.
one,
Yeah, exactly.
but yet you are, and you're the one that gets the message of all everybody here. It's like, really?
Well, and it's funny too because I did a gallery reading and I for the host, she brought her mother-in-law, but she never told me that her mother-in-law was a skeptic. And do you know, she got 4 readings that day. I was like, of all the people in the world, and I didn't know it, but it came through like, I mean, 4 people, distinct people came through, and she was able to claim them. And the funny thing is that the one spirit that came through was a little girl, and she said that she was miscarried in the 70s. And so I'm talking and explaining what this girl looks like and the year and going through everything. And I kind of had a suspicion that it was her. So I'm kind of looking off to the left hand side at her. And her face is kind of very strained and her eyes are really wide open. And so I kind of knew that I hit something. So I looked at her and I said, can you claim this little girl? And she's like, it was the 80s. Wasn't the 70s, it was the 80s. And it was like, and this is where, like I have a spirit guide who is, we have a really good relationship with one another. And, I kind of said something to them and, then I kind of shook my head like, no, I mean, this is really like, I have to trust spirit on this. It really definitively was the 70s, but I wasn't going to argue with her. And I said, well, spirit says it's the 70s, but if you think it's the 80s, then, maybe it's the 80s. She got up, went to the bathroom, just like that, fast. And I was like, uh-oh. And I could tell that she was kind of crying a little bit. So I told, the host, I said, you might want to check on your mother-in-law and make sure she's okay. This might be really disjarring to her,
Yeah.
She came out, the party ended and everything like that. So the host came up to me and she goes, wow, we didn't know she got pregnant in college and had a miscarriage. And it was the 70s. And I was like, nailed it.
Yeah, and what's funny is when a lot of times we talk about like, oh well, relationship. Well, it was the '80s. It's what we did, and so that's what you said. The '80s. I was thinking when she said that, I was thinking, yeah, we always would blame things on the fact it was the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where I thought she was going with it. I didn't think she was meaning no, it happened in the '80s. I thought she was saying the cause
She
of
was
it was
blaming it on
because
the
it was the
80s.
'80s.
Yeah. No, it might have been that free love and,
Yeah.
tie
So,
dye 70s. So, yeah, that was really funny. And out of all the people in the room, I had close to 15, 16 people, I want to say. I mean, she got 4 readings, like boom, boom, and then a few minutes more, and then boom, boom again. I'm like, because she was the skeptic. And they really wanted to make her believe. She walked away a believer that day, especially when she goes, yeah, I literally did have, but no one knew this was a secret, so
yeah.
she was like kind of glad that she miscarried. So it was a secret. Nobody knew about it. The family didn't even know about it. Here comes the medium. I'm like, oh God, I just totally gave a family secret
I know.
away.
You added someone. Yeah, and I often wonder how many times does that actually happen in readings to where, when there's groups of family members listening in on the one person, doing the session, that something comes up and everybody's looking at the person getting the reading and being like, no, that can't
That
be.
can't
No,
be.
that never. And then she's like, yeah. And everyone's like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, she like literally snapped and said, no, it was 80. It was the 1980s. It wasn't the 70s. It was the 80s. And I'm like, yeah, spirit wouldn't lie though. Why would they lie to me? But why would they say, okay, things can be misinterpreted sometimes. She could have meant something different, or I don't know. But, I mean, 1970s was very clear and concise. I mean, there's sometimes where I'm like, I feel like I'm pulling, like, the proverbial line and keep going like this to try to get something and I'm not getting it. In this case, it was like so crystal clear. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know that spirit would lie about that, but okay, fine. If you say it was the 80s, that's fine. But I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, she has no reason to lie. The spirit has no reason to lie.
Well, and also, whenever spirits give years or timetables, I always kind of in the back of my mind go, you're in a world that has no sense of time.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have a sense of time. And so to you, what's a matter of hours or days could be totally different than it is here. So I'm like, I always take that part with a grain of salt and going, okay, 70s could have been the 80s because decades are decades and
Mm-hmm.
past is different for them. And so maybe, yeah, they're looking at it through different eyes. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like,
that was funny though.
oh, I know that would be funny to watch. And I'm kind of curious too because you mentioned seeing colors around people and spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Has that always been, or how did you develop that ability?
No, I actually have had it since I was a child. And that's one thing I used to say to my friends, and they would look at me crazy. Like they'd have an aura of a color around them, and it'd be like, you're pink or you're blue, you're green, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's always been throughout my entire life. And actually, in the business world, it kind of served me for a purpose to understand the colors, to know who I was dealing with on a business level. So, like if I had somebody that was really red, I mean, I would know how to kind of tamper down information and make it a little bit more calm so that it wasn't something that would irritate them or make them fly off the handle. Not that red is always like that, but that's more passion, that's more vitality, versus like say for instance somebody that's got a color blue, which is like a mother earth aura, and is more calm. So it did serve me well in the business world when I was in the business world, the corporate world for a while.
So I want, since you're talking about like colors, it like a thought popped in my head that made me start laughing was, so is that why gingers have such the wild reputation? It's because of the red in the hair.
Well, I could ask my husband to come in, and he has this saying that says, when everyone goes, "Oh, you're married to a redhead," he goes, "Yep, I don't sleep with one eye open. I sleep with both eyes open." So yeah, he gets it. Trust me.
Yeah, and often I've kind of wondered because I know doing energy work and doing shadow work, the aura colors change, and as we do things in life, the colors change. But I've kind of wondered, like, let's say you have blonde hair and you go, I'm gonna make it blue. I wonder, does the aura pick up on that change, and does it actually change anything, or
I haven't seen that occur because I do have a friend who was blonde and she went red, but her aura still stayed the same. So, but I notice when people go through things like, personal problems, financial issues, things like that, or even people that have, like emotional disorders or bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or things like that. I've noticed that I ran across somebody recently that I've seen split aura this way, where one color is this way and another color is that way. I've never seen it where it's like split one color this way and one color down. And that particular gentleman was definitely very olive green on top and very gray black on the bottom, and he had mental health issues. And so that was really wild to see that, because that was not something that really was on my radar or I paid attention to as a child. I just didn't see that, or maybe I just didn't pay attention. But I did pay attention to that, and I was able to ask the question of this particular another person that was associated with him, like, does he suffer from depression, or does he suffer from, something else chemically imbalanced in his mind, and it came out he was bipolar. So it made complete sense as to the struggle of what he's trying to do in life to kind of balance out, himself. So I thought that was really interesting to see that.
And I'm also kind of curious if you've ever come across to where somebody was grumpy in this life and maybe showed up in a certain color, and then they go and they transition. Do they stay that color and stay in that
That's interesting.
persona, or
Yeah, that's an interesting
do they
question.
change?
I don't see the colors around the actual spirits. It's just the living that I see the colors around. Any of the spirits that come to me never present themselves with any color around them, which is really quite interesting. So I don't know that the aura really transfers. Or maybe I'm just not in tune with the aura once it transfers. Oh, once they transfer, go over to the other side. I've never really seen that. I just see it around living people.
Well, and I wonder if that could be because talking with, I'm going to throw a term out that you may not be familiar with or work around, but star seeds.
Mm-hmm.
We talk and we're like, yes, when we're on the other side or on the astral or different plane,
Mm-hmm.
we're just energy, so we're everything and nothing all at once. So if
Correct.
that's where the spirit's at, I don't think there would be an ability to emulate a color, because you would be all
Correct.
the colors and
Right.
yet none of the colors.
None of the colors. Exactly.
So it's
Precisely.
like,
But in
but
relationship to being grumpy, when they're grumpy in life, they typically are grumpy on the other side too.
and I'm also want to get your opinion on when going on paranormal investigations, and I get miffed when I see it in happening in front of me on investigations or on TV shows, or hear about it from other people, where they meet like a grumpy spirit and they go, "Oh, there's a demon," and they just throw that term out there, and it's like, really, you're just gonna drop that, like, and what context are we putting around to state that's what's here? Because I'm like, I ain't picking up none of that. It's like, nope, I don't think so.
No,
But
it's true. It's true. I mean, and I just feel like it's more so people being uneducated, because as many years as I've done this, I think I've seen one that could potentially classify as a demon. I had a case in Tucson, Arizona, where actually it was a friend of mine that was going down to a elderly woman's house, and she happened to text message me, and she said something about, like, would you use dragon's blood sage or mugwort sage to cleanse a particular location with a demon in it? And all of a sudden, I channeled in and went, no, there's no demon there. I said, it's a grumpy old 80-year-old man. And she's like, okay, well, I'll let you know if I need you or anything. So that was like, I'm here in Scottsdale, which is like, Tucson's like a 2 hour drive from Scottsdale and down south. And 8 o'clock at night, she text messaged me. And of course, by that point, I've already connected with the spirit earlier on in the afternoon. So all of a sudden the floodgates open up and I'm like literally doing voice to text with her. And I'm like, I go, it's a 80-year-old man. He's mad. He's Protestant Lutheran Cleveland. And I mean, he's just like, I'm trying to talk as fast as I can because he's talking as fast. And I said, okay, so he was cremated. And I said, he wanted his ashes at Gates Pass in Tucson. I go, he wanted his ashes split up in 2 separate locations. Tucson. I go, what's in Cleveland, Ohio? Why does he want his ashes in Cleveland? And he come to find out that his sister lived there and that he wanted his ashes sent to her. And she was going to spread it on a playground where they used to play as children. And I said, his words were, I gave you one task with my death and you effed it up. And I said, that's not me saying it, it's him. Yeah. And she's like, well, the woman's blown away. She wants to know how you know all this information. I go, because I'm talking to her husband. And I said, where are the second set of ashes? Well, they were nervous. They didn't know how to do it. They didn't investigate it. They didn't talk about it. They just took it and they threw the ashes in the vegetable garden in the backyard.
Oops.
I said, he's mad. I think you should get some dirt, send it to Cleveland so you can appease him. But there was another medium that came in and told her that there was a brown stain underneath her bed and it was a portal of hell. She had demons running around the house. No, just your mad husband.
Yeah.
So like I always say, 99.9% of the time you're dealing with somebody that is just grumpy. Not demon, grumpy.
I used to, when I would lead groups, I would say to them, okay, be careful what you call out, because here, let's look at society for a moment. And they're like, okay. And I go, you have a kid who's slow. What does one kid say to him? And I'm like, they call him stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So you have another one that comes up and says the same thing. 2 more start to saying it. Well, what does that kid start to think? I'm stupid. So he starts acting stupid.
Right.
Now, you go to the spirit world. You have a spirit who is just, going about his day, and somebody goes, there's a demon. And he's like, where? And another group comes in and goes, yeah, we're picking up on the demon. He's like, where?
Right.
And 2 more teams come in and say, we're picking up on a demon. He goes, F y'all. If you want a demon, I'll give you a demon. And you start to have the presence of a demon.
Right.
And exactly. I'm like, this is why you have to be careful what you call out, because you could be misidentifying something.
Right.
And that would piss me off too.
Well, it would piss me off, and he was pissed off because he's been trying to get her attention, almost like Geico. I've been calling you about your car insurance, but no one's been paying attention. I mean, he had been moving things in the house. He told me he's been moving, like he moved something in a cabinet for her. I'm trying to remember all the things he told me he was doing, but of course, they just chucked it up to like, oh, the wind did that, the cat did that, the baby did that, or whatever. I mean, they never acknowledged that it was him being in the room, and so what the final result was, he growled. Well, I would do the same thing if I can't get your attention, if I've been moving things, or touching you or whatever, and you're not getting it. Okay, I'll growl. See if you get that. So they heard a growl. And of course, then they called this medium. I don't know who it was, but they called, and she's like, you've got a brown stain under and I'm in, like I said, I'm in, Scottsdale, Arizona, 2 hours away, and I'm picking up on this, and I'm not even in, the house. And, there you go. It's a demon, brown stain under the bed, and it's a portal to hell. You got demons running around.
Yeah. And a story I tell people because I heard it from the Warren Foundation Legacy, and they were telling me about it, and I was like, and whenever this comes up, I always like to share this story because it's like I like it to be a warning to paranormal investigators that what they say has meaning.
Mm-hmm.
And the story was this kid was starting to act out and starting to get, different. And so the mother called a paranormal team in to say, what's going on with my son? And they do an investigation and they leave saying, your son has 70 demons attached to him.
Oh my God.
And so she calls the Warren Legacy Foundation and she's like, hey, my son apparently has all these demons attached to him. And they said, well, we can't get there right now, but we can get to you in a couple of days. Just don't worry, we got this, because I had a feeling they figured this is all BS.
Right. Right.
The next day, they get a phone call from the mother, and she says, you don't have to come. And he goes, no, we can totally help your son, and we'll totally get him, back to where he needs to be, and, in a clear space. And she goes, no, you don't understand. My son took his life because of what the paranormal team said. And I was like, and when I first heard it, the first words that came out of my mouth was, I hope this paranormal team hears this
Yeah.
and knows this is their fault.
Right.
And this is
Absolutely.
on them because of
Right.
what they did. And then I was like, and then I kind of morphed it into paranormal teams have to be aware what they say has meaning. And so if you're going to drop the D word and just walk out, be
Yeah.
prepared that this is a possible outcome
Right.
you've
Correct.
created. So be
Mm-hmm.
prepared for the backlash.
Right.
And it's like, and so when I'm on investigations and, people are, start to go there, I'm like, no, we're not going there. I'm like, just throw that word out of your vocabulary because there.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I do, like when I investigate with McInville and K Hall, I align myself with teams that don't do that because I don't ever want to be responsible for something like that. And I've had cases where I've had two young men who I've helped, where they have said that they're being pursued by demons or these shadow figures type of things, and I will sit down with them and talk to them. And one of them I did in Globe, where a gentleman came and sought me out because I was doing a gallery reading in Globe with Mackinville prior to their paranormal investigation, and he approached me and said that he had a demon. So I asked him the question, well, why do you think you have a demon attached to you? He's like, I think I picked it up from the Elks Lodge. And I said, or from the jail, Globe jail. And I said, who told you that? And he's like, well, this medium, she told me that I had a demon attached to me that attached to me from the jail, and that I needed to come back down to Globe and I needed to be present with a medium, and that they would release the demon back to the jail. And he goes, it just worked out that I saw that you were coming in and doing an investigation here and that you were doing a gallery reading. So I drove down here to have you help me. And I said, I'm not trying, and I'm kind of blunt. I don't mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything. And I prefaced to say that to him. I said, why do you think that you're so special that this particular entity attached itself to you from a jail? I said, do you offer something that everyone else doesn't offer? I said, they don't leave. They're not going to attach to you and leave. They just don't do that. I said, but just for kicks and giggles. So I took my dowsing rods out. I had him turn his back to me, and I took my dowsing rods and I put him up to his head, and with the intention of trying to figure out, if it was an affliction. And literally, as soon as I got to the head, they literally crossed over. And I went down his entire body and they stayed straight. and it's a chemical imbalance. So it's something psychologically that's happening to him. He's having night terrors, and that's not night terrors, night paralyzation. And, that's
Paralysis.
paralysis. Thank you. And I can't remember what that is called. There's a medical term for that occurs, and it's not anything to do with paranormal. It has everything to do with a slight chemical imbalance in the brain. So I've had two of those cases where they've come to me and told me they have demons, and that other mediums have told them that they have demons attached to them. I'm like, you don't have a demon attached to you. I know you're having nightmares. I know that you're having paralysis, but please go seek out a medical profession. I'm not, and I always preface say I'm not a medical profession. I'm just telling you what I'm picking up, and my spirit guides are telling me, and what I'm putting to the task. And so please seek out medical attention, because, and I don't know if the last gentleman did or not, but I know the one that I did in Tucson, he did. He had to go on some medication and contacted me afterwards and said he was perfectly 150,000% better. So, it's a gray area, when you're dealing with some of those mental health issues and classifying it as paranormal or classifying it as demons. And I really wish the paranormal world and mediums would not do that, because you're not a medical profession. And the other part of it is you're not a demonologist. So how would you really know?
Right. And
So,
with and one thing I'll preface with is I have a friend who is a demonologist, two actually, but one that I interact with more because he's closer. And the one thing I will say that for anybody listening to this that thinks they may, have this on them because someone said it, is when he goes and investigates, and if he finds something of that nature, he does not just walk out the door and say, okay, have a great day,
right,
or, whatever. He sits down and he goes into, okay, this is how we got to get rid of it. This is how
here's
we're
the
going to
trick.
remove it. And starting, a process of taking care of it. But that's where I feel like, if somebody comes, to you or is around you and they say, oh, this is around, and then they just pack up and leave,
Right,
I would tend to probably say, yeah, you don't have that, because I can't see anybody just walking out and just leaving you in that state of that knowledge without going, hey, maybe going, hey, this is out of my league.
right,
Here's a number of someone to call. At least they're giving
right,
you a next step, not
right.
just
Hey, thank you.
leaving and
Bye.
saying, hey, we're
Right.
done.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's why I kind of, I mean, this is such a serious field too. I mean, and that's kind of the problem I find with this industry right now, is that you have, the ghost hunters and you have the paranormal investigators. And I really feel that there's a distinct difference between the two. There's one that's doing it as a hobby, and it's a weekend warrior situation, and it's fun, and they really don't know, they're not taking it in a serious light, like in this particular situation. Hi, you have demons, bye, see you later. Whereas an investigator is going to try to debunk it. They're going to try to go through all the processes. If they find something, they're going to try to help, or they're going to try to at least put you in the direction of where you should go to seek the help or get the help that you need. So I that's the other part. I feel like there's an entertainment side, which, is great, but there's the other side of it too, where, it's a serious situation and people want to learn from it and truly want to connect with the other side to know what's going on the other side and to understand that education part of it.
Right. And, there's also something to be said for, when you're investigating and you pick up something and you're like, oh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? You see it on a lot of the shows. It's like, oh,
Right.
did you hear that? If you go and you're with these people and every single investigation, every room you go into, that is constantly coming up, I start to sit there and go, yeah, this is not a really good team to be associated with, and I'll kind of quietly bow out of doing stuff with them because I'm
Right.
like, nobody hears something every time. Nobody has that occurrence every single room. It's like it's too frequent.
Right.
I'm
Right.
sorry. It's like my
Paranormal
mind is
entertainment.
just like no.
Mm-hmm. Paranormal
Whereas,
entertainment.
and I caught myself one day, and I was laughing at myself afterwards because I was in a room and I really did hear something, but it was really subtle. And I looked over and I go, "Did you hear that?" And just after I said that, I looked at myself and I was like, "Did you really just utter that phrase?" And I was like, "I did, but I think I really did hear something, but I don't know." It's like it's become like a catch-22 almost of you start to question, did I hear something? Should I
Right.
call out if I hear something? Because it's too overused and
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
you don't want to be labeled as that guy who's
Well, and
always
I mean, there was Mackinville had a case where they asked, it was just the two of us, a lead investigator and myself, that went down to Glendale and talked to this woman. She swore to God that she had demons in the house too. And I always do like a channeling before I even go to an investigation. So I'll try to pick up, like what's going on, like a baseline, and talk to my spirit guides to find out what's going on. And oh, thank you, Chrissy. She's so sweet. Mwah, to them. Um, but literally, I walked I channeled and I didn't get anything. But I did pick up, I picked up alcohol and arguments. So I did a double link with a friend of mine who's another medium, and we double linked, and she got the same thing. So we went to the house, and I walked in. She tried to show us photographs, videos, stuff like that of all these things that are going on in the house. So we went to those locations and everything. And then I just said to her, "Do you have an ex-husband?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Does he come over drunk and argue with you, or are you arguing in this house?" And she said, "Yeah, all the time when he comes to pick up the kids." And I'm like, "So the kids are arguing and fighting amongst themselves?" "Yes." "You and your roommate are fighting amongst yourself?" "Yes." "The dog is growling at you?" "Yes." "This is what I want you to do. We will come out and investigate it for you. My schedule's busy. It's going to be in 2 weeks. We'll schedule it for an evening and come out. But in the meantime, this is what I want you to do. I want you to tell the husband that you're going to meet in a mutually located place so that he doesn't come over to the house. Find a location where you can drop the kids off to him. I want you guys to start watching cartoons that are funny, watch movies where you're laughing yourself just to the point where you pee. I want laughter, happiness, all kinds of things that you can do in this house to be fun." And I said, "And then we'll come back and do the investigation." 2 weeks later, I had Donna contact the woman, and she goes, "We don't need medium red. There's nothing in the house." They had manifested so much negative energy in there that it was taking on a life of itself. And the life of itself was now affecting the other people in the house, including the dog. There was nothing in that house, just pure negativism. And as soon as they changed that, it went away.
you know that makes total sense, and I've experienced that myself on different scales. And one thing I kind of want to step to the side for a second because there is something that you do we haven't touched on yet. And I'm curious if your mediumship you think helps you with it or kind of guided you into it, and that is the past life regression sessions.
It does. It does. Spirit does help me when I'm doing those past life regression sessions with, I try to make them to be more intimate one-on-one, but I will do a group session. And it's usually a group session of up to like, I usually cap it like about 8 just to make it more palatable for the people that are sitting there so they're not so uncomfortable. Typically they know each other, so it makes it a little bit more palatable for them. But yeah, it's a wild ride. I always love to hear after doing the past life regression sessions on people where they went and who they were and what they've experienced in their past life. And it's a guided meditation that literally just guides you through and to your soul to find out what your past life was. It's actually been such a rewarding thing for me to do with people to kind of have their eyes opened up and they come back and go, oh my gosh, I was in Mesopotamia or I was in Rome. And, it's just really wild to see the different lives that these people live. So I get to live, vicariously through them too.
Yeah, and that's really cool. So, what was it in your life where you like decided I'm going to make my mission to bridge the gap and to bring both sides together? And for those that are watching, what I'm meaning when I say both sides is the living and the other side, and merging them to one kind of focal point.
I think it was probably because of sitting down with the people that I do readings with and being able to connect with their loved ones and give them the messages that they want to hear. I've had the range of gamut of, like I didn't say I love you to my mother when she passed, and I carried this guilt for 30 years that, she must be mad at me. And to bridge that gap of bringing forth their mother and bringing them together, literally sitting in front of me with both of them there and having them be able to communicate with one another, just using me as the conduit, has been such a rewarding thing for me to help them and to see them. And it sounds sad to say it, but to see them cry happy tears, like, oh my God, I'm so happy that my mom's not mad at me, that I didn't, I wasn't there the day she died, or I didn't say I love you, or my last words to my dad were, something mean, like I wish I wasn't born, I wish you weren't my dad, or something like that, to have that come through and, your father's not upset with you type of thing. It's such a rewarding thing for me to be able to sit back and watch that joining of them together and that healing process start. And then for them to be able to take that information and continue on with a much better view of life and death makes a huge difference to me.
My next question to you is something that I've been facing right now and working through, and kind of noticing how people are seeing it and everything. And my question to you is, as an evidential medium or any type of medium at any level, in your life, how has it impacted how you handle death and the transition cycle and how you see it?
Well, I'm human. I don't want to die. I still have my reservations about, me personally dying. I think for me, the biggest thing is I don't want to die painfully. But the one thing that I've learned from spirit is that just before dying, you're kind of yanked, as a lame term to say, but you're basically pulled out of your body at that moment in time. So you really don't feel it and don't experience that, So that made me feel much better on having a transition. Excuse me. I still, I mean, I guess I don't want to say I'm desensitized by death, but I kind of am a little bit to it, where I don't feel as sad anymore about someone dying, because then I know that you're going to see them when you pass. But then I also have, like with my parents passing, I have the best of both worlds. You know, I had them as parents, but I also get to have them as parents in the afterlife as well, because I'm able to still communicate with them and I can still talk to them, which has been fabulous for me. It softened the blow of both of their deaths, even though I still terribly miss them, because it's harder to not be able to go and pick up the phone and call them. In this case, it's a little different phone call,
Right.
for lack of another term. But it did
And,
soften my views on it. It doesn't feel as scary, as bad in this particular instance. I just had a reading with somebody that committed suicide, and his sister wanted to find out like what had happened that day for him to shoot himself. And I was able to break through and talk to him and give her the information. She hasn't been sleeping. This just happened on May 5th. Actually, I had no idea that this just happened this month. And I was able to give her that reassurance that he's fine on the other side, and explain to her that he never felt any pain. He never felt that bullet. He literally was pulled before. And he even validated that. He told me that, which made me feel much better about what other entities have told me. And so it made more sense to me, in the sense that you don't feel that. He's like, I didn't feel it. It was instant. And I was pulled before I even felt it. It was my time. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. Just really crazy to me. But I'm not scared of it anymore.
yeah. The reason I ask is my mom was a medium and I kind of grew up around it. And so having that connection, it's like I say to people, you know, she passed in April, but she
Oh, I'm
didn't pass in
sorry.
April. In my eyesight, the physicality of her passed in
Correct.
April.
The soul is
And
living on.
but right, because I still talk to her, I can still get a hug, I can still feel her around, and it's the same with my dad and everybody in my family that's gone before him. And it's all accumulated to where it's like now I realize, oh, I'm mourning the loss of the physicality. So I'm able
Correct.
to bounce back faster
Right.
and move on faster, but I'm not moving on from the loss of them.
Right.
It's the loss of the aspect of them being here. And so that's why I was curious if you, being a medium, if you kind of felt the same way, that it's like the physicality is what hurts not
Correct.
being around, but
Right.
that's okay because now they're able to communicate in a much better way. And it's like, yeah, it's almost like the preferred way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, and I've received a lot of insight, since their passing, in relationship to talking to them about things, like just even the family dynamics of what, our family went through, and clarification about things that went on. I mean, it's actually been an eye opener for me, which I really appreciate in this case.
Yeah,
So
and
I've learned so much, and I now use them as spirit guides as well, and have them kick in and give me information as well. I mean, I have 5 spirit guides, but there's one spirit guide that
rules
I
them
found.
all.
Huh?
I was making a joke of Lord of the Rings, one spirit guide that rules them all.
Yeah, he does. Well, she, it, yeah, he really does. And I'll and it's interesting, because this is something that he told me, is that there's really no gender on the other side. There's no male or female on the other
Right.
side, but he will present himself, and I call him he because he presents a little bit more frequently as a male. But there are times where he'll come through as a female when it's information that needs to be told to me in a softer manner or in a female manner, he'll come across as being female. But there's times when he comes across as being male too. So I asked him, I said, how do I know you? How did, where do we fit in together? Or where did I get you from, type of thing? And come to find out he was and I got to put it exactly like he did. I was assigned to you from another life. And that big sigh afterwards was like, what's that mean? Am I that much of a pain in the, you know what? You didn't want to be assigned to me?
Well, there are times that it's like I look at the spirit world, as we call it, versus our world, and I'm like, they're home. We're the ones that are still in school, so to speak, learning.
Correct.
And one thing that I've started coining a phrase of is, to help me whenever I do something that I feel like, God, why the hell did I do that? I totally know better and knew better. But is I will go, I'm just a spiritual being having a human experience.
Correct. Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
like,
I love that, Michael.
just
That's
having that
perfectly well said.
realization, I'm like, I feel like that totally explains away everything. And it's like, I'm at peace then with the situation of, just having a human experience.
That's right. Exactly.
And
It's
that's
funny.
probably why he was like being assigned is he's like, they can't have the human experience.
Right.
So they have to experience it through us. And it's like,
Why aren't you listening? Why aren't you paying attention? Why are you doing?
well, I think it's the opposite actually is I think they look at us and they're like, how are you surviving? How are you doing this and able to do that? Where, like we say, I'm there for you and, we're there,
Right.
but we're miles apart
Mm-hmm.
and it still works. But they are like, I can be both places at the same time
Yeah.
and give them that comfort. How are you able to do that comfort long distance not there? And I think
Right.
that's where they kind of sigh is they are like, I think they're in awe of everything we are able to do
Right.
that they take for granted and we do it in a different way. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And
No, it's
so
true.
that's how I choose to look at it with my spirit guides is they're like, yeah, because I feel like they would be insane otherwise because I feel like I would be insane otherwise with some of the stuff I've gone through.
Well, it was funny too. On top of it, I don't know if you know, but Cindy Kaza does like encaustic wax art, and she'll open up her like an Eventbrite type thing, and she'll sell some of her art. You can commission like a personal piece. So Cindy did one. I bought myself one for Christmas, and so she did my spirit guide for me, and I swear to God, she nailed it. And she knows nothing about my spirit guide. I mean, I've never talked about my spirit guides with her. I go in its class, you don't discuss that stuff. I mean, you discuss it, but you don't discuss it like that, like what we're talking
Right.
about. So she did a drawing for me of my spirit guide. And she said, and then she'll write a description of what she got when she was channeling, when she did the art. So she came back and she said that, and I never got a name because he just never really told me a name. He's like, you just know me, just leave it at that. And I'm like, okay. Great. All right. Because again, we as humans want to put a name to something so that we can call, Michael, Colleen, Bill. So his name was Asim, ASEM. So as I was doing my Zoom call with her, I'm Googling Asim. Do you know what Asim means? Neither male nor female, Arabic. I'm like, oh my God, you are funny.
Oh, that is funny.
So you gave me a name that basically
Describes you.
correct, correct. You're neither male nor female. There's your name. Like I was like, you are so funny. You crack me up.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious, real quick, because I know we're getting close to time. When sometimes I wonder, our guides that are guiding us, if they're not us. And where I'm going with this is like, I had a guest who was telling me this story that he had an astral experience where it kind of changed his life a little bit. And I was like, and he had a whole story behind it. And I said to him, well, one of the things that I was hearing is it's your future self coming to show you something in the now. And he
Hmm.
was like, that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of feels right. And so I kind of wonder sometimes, these guides that come to help us, because we know in metaphysical terms, we're here, but we're just a part of, a part of our soul is
Right.
here,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also there. And,
And
as
there, and there,
they
yeah.
as the star seeds say, we're everywhere and nowhere. It's like,
Right.
and you're one of us.
Right.
So I wonder how many times, ourselves shows up and says, "Oh, I'm here to help you," and
Mhm.
doesn't announce it's us, because then we're not filtering and going, "Yeah, if you knew, you knew me like you say you should, we wouldn't be talking like this."
Right. Exactly.
And so they create these personas to bypass our filters.
Right. Well, and I mean, I've heard it where, that is a little bit in the same sense. It's, like your higher self, speaking to your higher self, a bit, and getting advice from your higher self, essentially,
Right.
too. So, yeah.
Yeah. And how funny that would be if, like, our guides really were ourselves. In which case, like, you're sitting there saying,
Mine's got a
"I'm
really good sense
presenting
of
bull."
humor.
Yeah, be like, and then I look at shows like Doctor Who as an example.
Oh, yeah.
There's different versions of the Doctor, and I noticed each version
Hmm.
is an aspect of his personality.
Hmm.
And I started noticing that, and I was like, what if our guides are aspects of our personalities? And
Right.
how wild would that be?
Right. Exactly. Oh, I could go down that rabbit hole. Spend some time there too.
Uh, because, if you think about it, who better to guide us than ourselves? Because
Right.
we know what we will listen to, won't listen to,
Right. Exactly.
what we'll believe, won't believe, what will.
Exactly.
And so it's like, are our guides really us? And it poses an interesting question.
It really does. It really does. It truly does. Yeah. Are we talking to our higher self? Yeah. Boy, I got
Yeah.
a sarcastic other side, don't I?
Or an entertaining side.
On an entertaining side. Yeah, exactly.
So
Oh, that's funny.
before we end this, I'd like to give you the opportunity for a couple of things. One is, I know you have a podcast show or a bunch of shows, so I'll give you time to promote those. But also, if you have anything coming up that you want to promote out, I'll give you time for both of
Oh,
those. So,
yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, I do. I'm a co-host too within the Cauldron. You saw that pop up on the screen. Chrissy Dunham and Chris, excuse me, and Behind the Witch's Veil. It's two of them. So we both tag team each other really well on her show, which is wonderful. They've taken me into their coven and I absolutely adore the two of them. And they're family to me. I love the family very much. So much,
Oh,
in fact, that Christy and I and Amy, her daughter, are going to Salem on the 3rd. I think it's September 3rd to the 6th. And they're going to show me around Salem, which I'm really looking forward to. And coming up, let's see, we have, I am actually, I don't know, it's still in the works, but we're supposed to go to the Queen Mary, Mackinville, and investigate the
wow.
Queen Mary. So I jumped on that fast. Even if we don't do it, I'm still going to do it. I was able to get B340, the room B340. Don't tell me what happens in the room. I want to experience it in its purest form. I like to go in without any knowledge of locations so that I'm able to really truly pick up on the information and get the evidence and then backed up by the facts. So that's I think it's the 17th, 18th, and 19th, I think is when we're supposed to do that. So I'm quite looking forward to that as well.
And
Let's see. Go ahead.
really funny, real quick, is when you mentioned both those podcast shows. One of the titles, I was like, I've been on that show. That's the show I was on, and so now I'm
See?
going on the other show
Were
because
you
I
on
was
Within the
like,
Cauldron and they want you behind the witch's veil?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. We
Or
tagged
I
it.
was
We
on Behind the Witch's Veil, and I'm going on the Cauldron. It's one.
on the Cauldron, yeah, right.
And
Yeah, because
so
Chrissy texted me today, and she's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, I texted Michael to see if he'd be on because she saw my flyer, and she's like, "He's been on our show," and I'm like, "Oh, he was." Because I didn't know of you until you contacted me, so it was kind of
yeah,
funny. She's like, "Oh, I
uh,
asked Michael to be on our show.
yeah. It's like
I'm going to see
when
you
I
in
heard the name,
July."
it's like it popped up, and I was like, I remember seeing the thumbnail, and it was like, yeah, that was a really cool show, and I'm like, oh, good. I get to go back on the other one. And I always love when I get to do like both shows because I'll say, like, I think I even said to you when I asked you if you wanted to be on this show, is I'm like, I also have this other show, and, you can pick which one you want to be on, or if you want to be on both, let's do one and then we'll figure out the other one.
Yeah, I'll be on both. I don't care. I love that. I love doing podcasts, obviously, because I do it with Chrissy. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. We've got an investigation at Gleason, Arizona. I think it's June 5th with Mackinville. I can put that flyer on my page so people can see that too, just in case anybody's in Arizona that wants to go to that. It's really going to be fun. It's an old ghost town that they're going to be investigating. I had something else too I was going to say and I forgot it now. It just went bloop out of my brain. I lost it. So never mind.
I always tell myself it's important, it'll come back.
Exactly. I'm still trying to remember something I was supposed to tell my husband about last Friday, and it's Friday's gone. Can't remember what it was.
Oh,
Wasn't
yeah.
important.
I was talking to somebody and I was like, well, yeah, when the 17th comes around, I'll, keep an eye on, what's going on and, make sure. And they started laughing and I go, what? She goes, that was yesterday. I was like, never mind. Forget I even said anything about that day.
You're like the day
Apparently,
behind guy.
whatever was going to happen that day, sure.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I was going to say is I do one-on-one readings. You can go to my website. It's www.mediumredz.com, and I have a form there if you'd like to fill it out. You can do Zoom call. I can do, for those in Arizona, I can do in person. I can do Zoom calls. I can do phone calls. I don't have to actually be sitting in front of you to be able to do any type of reading. It can be a remote reading. I also do past life regression sessions, and I can also do that on Zoom as well. So if you need anybody that has a past life regression session wanting, I can do that as well.
Very cool. And I look forward to having you back on because I feel like there's so much more, and I love finding out that we're collaborating. And what I mean by that is, I was saying to behind the scenes, it's like I know her as Medium Red, and I didn't know that she was Colleen until right before we were doing the show, and I was like noticing, wait, why is Colleen promoting the show and saying she'll see me at this time, and then I was like, no. So I went in and I was like, oh, let me update the records, because I was like, I couldn't tag Medium to do the co-host, but I could tag Colleen. And so I was like, and I get confused because I'm like, yeah, I talk you during one and then somebody else, and I'm like, oh, this is the same person.
Yeah, the professional medium red, and then just the lay person, Colleen.
The lay person. That's funny.
Well, we're looking forward to having you on our show too. I can't wait. That'll be
Yes.
awesome.
That'll be, oh, let me see.
Did you say July 8th?
No, July 6th.
July 6th. Okay. Got
And
it.
she did confirm it is 8 p.m. Central Time, which I'm not even going to pretend to say what it is Arizona time. Cause,
6.
oh, see, there you go. I was.
And it's
You
perfect
guys
because I'll be back in town. That's perfect. I land at 4 o'clock. I get home. I'll set my laptop up and I'll see you then.
all right. And it'll be so much fun being in the other seat. And it's I always find it fun when you get to collaborate and switch roles and be like, do you really switch roles, or do they start kicking in and it's like everybody's hosting, even though
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
everyone
Yeah.
hosting?
Everyone's hosting and we're just swapping back and forth. Yeah. Yeah, because I'll have to tell you sometime about, Clifton, Arizona and what happened down there. That's really cool. I have to tell you that next time.
Yeah, and so thank you for coming on and trusting me to come on, because like you said, you didn't know me until we started talking, and Chrissy was like, yeah, we know him.
I know.
And
I was
so
like, oh, you do? Yeah, it was funny. I was like, oh, that's cool. Good. Hi. She said you were on the show. I'm like, oh, that was BC before Colleen. Or
yeah,
before Red.
yeah, and I was telling Medium, I was like, and Chrissy kept mentioning to me, she's got to check with Colleen, and I'm like, who's Colleen? And
You're like, again,
is
there's
this
this
like
Colleen person.
a new? Is this like a new partnership or something? And did I miss something? And then it's like, oh,
Just my
uh,
sister.
it's a funny thing on how connected the paranormal world can be, and there's
Exactly.
no synchronicities to it. Well, I
There's
say that
no
wrong. There's no coincidences.
no
There are
coincidences.
synchronicities.
Right, exactly.
I was like,
Exactly.
saying there's no synchronicities. I was about to have a few guests of mine coming on screaming at me because they talk
Like, wait,
about
that's not wrong.
synchronicities. They're like, there are synchronicities. We make our lives out of it. I'm like,
That's right.
sorry.
There's just no coincidences.
Right.
Well,
So
thank
thank
you again.
you.
I appreciate it.
And thank you to everybody in the chat room for participating and tuning in on this special night episode. And I do have one message for you, Colleen, or Medium, whichever name we're going to go by now. And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity. It's
Thank
seen,
you.
felt, and heard.
Thank you. I love doing this just for that matter, just to be able to help people. I mean, it's that, like I said before, it's such a rewarding thing to have, to have the gift to be able to bring people together. So thank you
And
very much. I appreciate that.
I'm going to add a little special one just for you is thank you for being you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate you being you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And to everybody watching, make sure you like, subscribe, follow her shows and my shows, because you never know when she'll be popping up or I'll be popping over their side. So have fun, and
Thank you, Jason. Thank
I
you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
yes, and do make it a wonderful week. And oh, thank you, Jason. I appreciate you too.
That's sweet.
And do be aware tomorrow night we do have a normal show. And by normal show, I just mean it's on the normal time and night. And it'll be Reagan Foster, which ironically, we're going to be talking about the afterlife. And so I'm loving how this show's theme is the afterlife this week. So I love how that worked out. It's almost like I planned it.
Themed week. Themed Tuesday. Themed Monday, themed Tuesday.
Oh,
There's Chrissy. Great show. We're
yep.
going to have fun.
Yes, we are. And I appreciate you guys having me back on. And so I know your guys' schedule is as full as mine. And so I'm not hurt that I have to wait till July. I'm more excited because I think it fits better with my time too. And I'll be around the 4th. So we get to, celebrate independence and party on the show.
Yay!
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and I will see all of you tomorrow night for my episode. And you pretty much got to tune in to follow Medium Red to find out when her shows are. Because from when I talked to Chrissy, they don't have set days yet. So gotta love the flexibility that comes with that.
Yep. We actually have 2 tomorrow and 1 Wednesday and 1 Thursday. So actually we've got 4 this week, which is a little abnormal, but we do. We accommodate people's schedules, so yes.
Yes, I've learned to do that too. Now that I'm not tied to specifics, I'm like, I can be more accommodating, and I'm finding guests are appreciating that more.
Yes, thank you very much for accommodating me too. I appreciate that.
Yes, you're welcome. And with that, we are going to say good night, and I'm going to start the outro if it'll start on time. We'll
Bye,
see. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye.